What's up? All right, here. I'm just battling some headphones real quick. Stand by. You know, the things were crazy when I have poison oak on my face. I can't point. It's up here. I got it all on my face. I am a poison oak factory right now. What's up, guys? What's up? What's going on? I am fired up for this one. Let everyone get in here quick. See some people in the chat already. Mike, Jacob, Chris, what's up? Run Free Strong. How you doing, bud? Run Free Strong. When did you end up getting home? We maybe I'll talk about it quick before I go live with the playback. But yeah, we got rejected on like 3 Ubers for the San Francisco to no, from the Sacramento to San Francisco. I didn't get into Sacramento, San Francisco till like 3, 4 in the morning. What a poop show. Matt, what's going on, buddy? How are you? Yeah, it ended up being the right move to fly out of San Fran. It definitely did. Guys, I got lots of notes tonight. I'm gonna run through some stuff, and then I have questions, a ton of questions from Instagram. I just posted the 60-second reel of the race on Instagram. So if you happen to bump into that later, give that one of those like the double taps, and maybe share that one in your story. I like a lot of people that get to see that. And yeah, I think we're ready. I'm going to start the official recording now. Please, if you have any questions, I'll talk about that in a second. Yeah, actually, no, before I start the actual podcast, guys, if you know, please leave questions. If you're watching this on your phone and you didn't know you could see the chat, like right under my face on your phone, you could there's the chat option. You can do that. You have to be a subscriber to be able to be in the chat. You can also become a channel member if you'd like for like $1 a month. And you get a fancy little emoji next to your name and things like that. And one day when I have millions of subscribers and I have to do member-only chats, I laugh, but on my other channel, I actually have to do just member-only chats. I can't just leave it open to the public. It gets weird in there, but all right. Man, I'm pumped. Got my electrolytes. What's up, guys? Welcome back. Another episode of Rest Day. This is a double back-to-back rest day and probably a rest day for a couple days. We got the job done. Tonight, we're going to talk about canyons, 100-miler, and pretty much what this podcast has been about for the last 23 weeks. Let's answer a bunch of questions that I got on Instagram. Also talk about, I guess, volume 2, season 2 of this podcast, and what's going to be going on. I've been heard saying in the past couple of days that I've quit ultramarathoning, that I'll never run again. Lucky to report to people that did hear that. That's slowly fading away. So I don't think I've retired just yet. But it was definitely one of those days. I want to go through pretty much aid station to aid station. I want to make this kind of, if somebody's never done the race before and they keep the course the same, kind of get an idea. I wish that as a first timer in this race and the first time they had this course, I wish I knew a little bit more about the course maybe, or at least could have found out more information. There were some podcasts like last minute and things like that, but I really wish I would have known. So I want to touch on those people that are learning. Also, we have a bunch of people that were there with me that I would like to maybe bring back some memories for those people that maybe didn't take as close of notes as I do. I tend to really document everything and just share my story and hopefully let you know that if an alcoholic weirdo like me can turn this thing into something in less than a year, then I think really anybody can. What's up, Chad? How are you, buddy? Hold on one second. Sorry. Okay. So, Chad, you ready for Cocodona, man? Let's go. All right. So first, logistics getting there. I flew in on Thursday night, and I got an Airbnb, which was really, really awesome. No, I got in there Wednesday night. I apologize. I'm already off. Wednesday night we got in. It was late, and little did I realize over the next couple of days that I really would have no idea what day it was, what time it was, if I was hungry, if I was sleepy. I'd really have no idea. Got up Thursday morning, met Jacob and his partner Allison for breakfast at the what do we go to, the Big Bear Diner, and it was delicious. Did exactly what we needed to do, and then went to the expo, got our bibs. Not like a, if you come from like road marathoning, when you go to an ultra like expo, it's very different. It was pretty much in a parking lot. We got our job done. We got our bib. We got out of there. And then we actually went for, Jacob and I went for a walk. My wife and the other people that we were with, they went for a run. And I think Jacob and I got about 2 miles in, and about halfway in, he's like, "Oh man, I wouldn't be doing this if you were here." And I felt really, really bad, but sorry about that, bud. Got a 2 mile walk in, headed back. I don't tend to have like a pre-race meal or anything that I need to change. I pretty much just won't do anything new. But as somebody that kind of eats everything, yeah, I tend to do more protein than carbs. I kind of carb load into the week, but the night before, I tend to just respond better when I eat carbs, when I eat protein. So it was a big protein night for me, and I got to bed about 8 p.m. Now, I don't think in the less than 24 hours I was there, I got acclimated to the time zone. So, like I said, everything was really weird, but it was 8 p.m. I knew I wanted to be up early. The race is 9 a.m. start on Friday. So some people think that's really late. Some people think it's early. That's really up for you to decide. But for me, that was great. I did not want to be part of that 100K squad that had to wake up at like 2 o'clock in the morning, because we had an hour-long bus ride up there. So got up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, came downstairs, and one of my crew members, my buddy, my pacer, Ryan, he already had coffee made. Like this is, guys, I'm going to talk so much about the people in this race that were there with me. And I know that people can do this unsupported. They can do this solo. I frankly don't know how or why you would choose that option. I mean, the whole weekend was made exponentially better and probably successful because of the people that I was there with. So if you're going in the first time, pick something that, you know, you can invite people to and you can have join you. And to be honest, if you have to help them get there, it's probably going to be worth it to you. Like, obviously my brothers didn't ask me for money. They came out. But if my brother Daniel was like, dude, it's not in my means to come, I know now that it would have been worth to pay his flight. He was that valuable to me. And Ryan, same thing. Ryan would never accept money from me, and I'm probably going to take them to a really nice dinner. But knowing the value that Ryan brought to my race, it would have been worth it to fly him there and have him there with me. So race morning, had a cup of coffee. I tend to be somebody that sometimes have a nervous stomach in the morning, like a lot of Code Browns. And I went in like almost weird, comfortable. Even I slept like a rock. I didn't toss and turn. And I woke up just ready. And I think that luck favors the prepared. And I knew emotionally that I was ready, that I'd done the work. And that really helped me sleep good at night. It helped me wake up and have my coffee. I did a bagel with peanut butter, honey, and a little maple syrup. That was it for breakfast. And I did that early, about 5 a.m. So you figure 4 hours before the race time. And it was just nice to have that no rush. I sat with Ryan. We watched the sunrise on the porch. My Airbnb overlooked the river. It was something amazing. And yeah, I felt so prepared. And one of the questions I keep getting is like, how do I feel today? A couple of days later, guys, I am aces. And I really owe that a lot to that training as well. Like, training helps you in the race, but it really helps you after the race and how your recovery is. Like even training for a marathon, if you can go out and get through a marathon, anybody, I promise. But like the people I trained are going to be able to go for a run maybe the next day or the day after. So yeah, I feel really, really good. I got dropped off at Jacob's at 6 a.m. We were going to go there together, and that made my life easy as well. As somebody that likes to have their hand held a little bit, I have no problem admitting that. It was just nice to have him there and just know that we were like going to attack this together. And because there was no morning spectators at the race at the start, we had to take a bus. So it was pretty much like none of my crew was there. Like Tara brought me to Jacobs and went right back to the Airbnb. And then Allison brought us to the bus, and then she got out of there and we were on our own. And I was talking to my wife about this morning. At first, I hated the idea of no spectators at the start. But in hindsight now, it was a little nice. I got to say, it really allowed me to focus on the moment and like stay there in the moment. Not to say that you have to entertain the people that you're with, but like you don't want to just like walk away and just like leave them standing there. You feel like you have to have a small conversation with them. They keep asking you how you feel. You ready? What do you need? Are your shoes tied? Do you have your food? Like it was kind of nice to just be able to sit there and just relax and really just focus on you. And that was really the only time in the race that I think that I really wanted to be alone. And I mean, I wasn't alone in the sense that I was there with all the other racers, but I was there just to do my own thing. If I wanted to walk over here, I could walk over there. If I wanted to sit down for a minute, I could. If I wanted to stand, and I just got to do whatever really that I wanted. And that was really, really nice. We didn't know if it was going to be, if it was going to be a school bus or a coach bus. So when we pulled up, Jacob and I, we were the first ones in the parking lot, and we were ecstatic. There was one coach bus there, and Jacob's like, dude, that's us. And I'm like, I feel like there should be a lot more buses. And he's like, I feel like we could have came a lot later than we were, because we were there probably 45 minutes before the first bus was going to leave. And we did that in a way because we wanted to be there. We didn't know what it was going to be like. And there's long, windy roads up there. I did not need to be getting sick on a bus, or at least getting off with a little bit of like bus sickness. So we got the front row right behind Debbie, epic woman driving us up there, shooting the shit with us the whole time. And yeah, we got up there and it was cool and it was damp, a little rainy, but the buses didn't drop us and dip. So when we got there, we were one of the first buses there. We got to stay on the coach bus. We had a bathroom on the coach bus. Like getting off when they finally kicked us off at 8:45, 15 minutes before the race, like I could literally say that it was a perfect morning from how I felt, how I slept, just everything about the morning. It could not have went any smoother. And for a long day like this, that set the vibe early. I didn't go in with a nervous stomach. I didn't go in like, oh my God, do I got to go to a porta potty? I didn't go in hungry. And I mean, I ate a ton. I'm sitting next to Jacob on the bus, and like my stomach, I was like starting to feel like, am I getting hungry? I said to him like, hey man, are you like, what'd you eat? When are you going to eat again? He's like, dude, I had a banana like an hour ago. I'm like, you've only had a banana? I'm like, I went through all the things that I've eaten all day. And he's like, yeah, I had like a banana. Maybe I'll have like a little bar before stuff. Whatever, man. I couldn't believe it, but went off right on time. I think 240 something people started. So just under 250 people started the race, and we were off. So now I'll break things down pretty much aid station to aid station, because that's how I lapped my watch. And another reason I did that, and another question I got was like, what is on my watch? I used to be somebody that had all the data on their watch that they could possibly imagine. Now I have everything on separate screens, and my watch face is very, very minimal. 90% of the race I had on lap distance, lap time, lap pace, and elevation. That was it. And what that was aid station to aid station. I treated this race as 17 mini races. There was 17 aid stations, the 17th being the finish. And I found myself in the past in old ultras, like really looking at my average pace for the whole thing and watching that fluctuate and getting upset. Or, just looking at the time of day and say, oh, it's getting late. It's going to be dark soon. I really didn't want, or total distance. Like, oh my God, how can I feel this crappy at 40 miles? I tell you, I didn't know what time of day it was really the whole race. I really had no idea. The other screen that I had up was heart rate. And I really only tracked my heart rate for the first 20 miles or so. And I'll explain why in a second, because you guys know I'm the heart rate guy. And the other one was the course, like the map elevation and just like what was coming up. And I was really, really happy with those. I loved not knowing how far I really was into the race. I didn't know it was Saturday until a woman said to me, happy Saturday. And I said, oh, she goes, yeah, it's midnight. I said, all right. I knew it'd been dark for a while. I knew it was late, but I didn't know it was like Saturday. So we started off at China Wall staging area, and they were right. There was not going to be a lot of places for people to park and things like that. We had to go 10.1 miles, which was really one of the biggest stretches in the whole race between aid stations, down to an aid station called Deadwood. We had to climb 1,787 feet and go down 2,870 feet. When I was a road marathoner and even a triathlete, I love downhills. Guys, I hate downhills. I never want to see down ever again. I will, you think like in a marathon, like a net downhill course, like that's going to be your BQ race. Like this was I think we ended up at 18,200 something feet, and it was down 22,000, almost 23,000 feet. The carnage on my quads and some of the friends that I had, and like, I took it really easy. Like there was like the last 10K, you had to climb like 1,200 feet. People were celebrating that because you had to go down to the river and then climb up. Most of the time, you'd be like, who wants to end the race with this uphill? And a lot of people were like, I can't wait to go up again, because down was just so hard. And it started right from the beginning. The first 50K was just down. It had 8,000 feet of up, but it had like 14,000 feet of down in the first 50K. And it was brutal. I did this 10-mile stretch in 2 hours and 16 minutes. So that's 13:51 pace, a little over 4 miles per hour. The gap pace for that, I'm not going to do the gap for everyone, but if you kind of have an idea, the gap was 11:52. So 12 minutes per mile if I was on a flat ground. My heart rate, 140 beats per minute. And like I said, all I remember is just down, down, down. I started off with Jacob. We went out together for about the first mile and a half, and then I had to stop and pee and adjust my shoes. And, he kept up the pace and kept on going. It was a little bottleneck frustrating on the single track. It started off on a road, and then it kind of bottlenecked down into a single track, probably about 2 miles in. And there was a lot of people taking a conservative, and I kind of felt that it was a little too conservative. I was really going on perceived effort. I wanted to hold a pace that I knew that I could sustain. I kind of went by my breath, not so much my heart rate. And I felt like it was just a little bit slow. So that was a little bit frustrating. I was that guy early on that was doing a lot of like, excuse me, can I pass? Do you guys mind if I pass? Can I scoot by you quick? I was that guy for the first couple miles. And not too many people passed me. So it wasn't like I was one of those guys that sprinted ahead and then totally crashed and burned. But yeah, that was a little frustrating in that first 10. If you're going to do this race and you know that you want to be somewhat quick, like sub 27 hours, I'd say start in the like towards the front. I'm not saying you have to start in the line, but we started like right in the back. And I don't know if I would necessarily do that again. It was raining, so our feet got wet immediately, which is the story of my life in every single race. And I'm so glad my coach told me, Brad, bring every pair of shoe that you can bring. And I'm like, really? He's like, shoes that like, even you're going to retire soon, just bring them. And I brought 4 pairs of shoes, and I wish I had 6 pairs of shoes with me. Came into Deadwood, so about 10 miles in, and then we knew we had a 1.8 mile stretch up 500 feet, and that was going to lead us into Devil's Thumb, which was just like there's no food at this one. It was just like to fill your bottles. And this was like the first major checkpoint for me, was getting down Devil's Thumb to Swinging Bridge and turning around and coming back up. And I will say, like, this is kind of why I'm glad I did push that single track, because I got myself a little bit of space in between like that big front group and then kind of where we were. I was kind of like in the middle of the pack, so to speak. And it did kind of stretch out, and going down that Devil's Thumb was pretty much single track down. So you had people going down the single track, coming up the single track, and it was pouring rain. So there were some parts of that were really, really a slip and slide. But Deadwood was an amazing aid station. The aid stations were great the whole race, and the volunteers were great the whole race. And I'll knock things when I think they're bad, but I'll also give credit where credit's due. I've knocked Grindstone and how crappy that race was organized, set up, the aid stations, the course marking. Never wanted to do UTMB event again. I'd signed up for this one before I'd done Grindstone. And after Grindstone, I was kind of like, no. I'll tell you, this was done completely different. And I had nothing but a great experience from the course markings and things like that, and aid stations, volunteers. It was a very, very awesome race. So I will just say that right from jump. Deadwood, I had a half a peanut butter and jelly sandwich before getting out of there. From Deadwood to Devil's Thumb took me just under 30 minutes. So just under 30 minutes to go 2 miles. It's 14:28 pace at 1:43. Like I said, a little steady 500 feet over that 1.8 miles. Like I said, nice and easy getting ready for that first Devil's Thumb. And it was, like I said, starting to rain and really, really turning into a slip and slide. I got to Devil's Thumb and headed down towards Swing Bridge. It was 1.6 miles down, 1,600 feet. So you're talking 1,000 feet per mile. It took me 22 minutes to get down, 22:36. That's 15:12 pace at a 136 heart rate. Took it nice and easy. And then it was really awesome to see people coming back up. I thought it was going to be demoralizing, thinking like, oh my God, look at all these people that are coming down. They're so coming back up. They're so far ahead of me. But it was just nice. The trail community is amazing. They were so supportive coming up. And it was just someone to talk to. Like, it made it feel like you when you're running single track, you're kind of like just staring at someone's ass the whole time. This was nice because you actually got to see somebody and look at somebody in the face and like really cheer them on. And it turned out to be a time that I was like dreading most of the time, but ended up just really, really, really liking it a lot. And yeah, it was just very, very good vibes. I turned around and headed back up to 1,642 feet. Took me almost double the amount of time to come back up, 39:58. So that's a 25-minute pace. Like I said, 1,000 feet per mile, 158 beats per minute. So I had to push the heart rate a little bit, even just to keep it there. And I think that high heart rate was also due to slipping and just like a little bit of stress, like people coming down, people slipping and falling like into you. We were kind of catching each other on the way down. I got to see Jacob here, which was really, really nice after I'd passed him somewhere on the single track when I was doing that. And he was like, you go, buddy. And I was like, I gotta go. And he's like, yeah, you go. So I got to see him on my way back up, which was really, really nice. And yeah, getting up to the top of Devil's Thumb, I filled some bottles and knew that I had about a 5K left back to Deadwood. And it was nice doing that little loop because I knew what a great aid station Deadwood was. So I really got to prepare myself to eat. I didn't realize that the way we were going to come back into Deadwood, we were going to come back down under it and have to climb up the hill to it, turn around and come back down. So that was a little bit of a bummer. And that was super, super slippery at that point. But it was like nice knowing that you were going to make that climb. And it was so worth it because there's such good food there and just such amazing people. They're like, when I say good people, like obviously they're very friendly. What do you need? But these were the type of volunteers that were like, hey, you have 3.2 miles to Deadwood. It's going to be 283 feet down and 700 feet up. And this is what you're going to do. You're going to go down for about 1.5 miles. So keep it cool on the down. And this is all while you're eating and drinking. Some guys in your ear, like, take it nice and easy. Don't blow up down because you're going to have that straight back up. And like that knowledge of the course and just helping us just remember if we weren't on point, it was, yeah. So getting up there, just good news. I was glad Devil's Thumb was over. Not because I had been dreading it. It was actually great. And it would have been exponentially harder if we had to do that late in the race. Like I know the race used to come up to China Wall. If that was at mile 80 as opposed to mile 14, it might have been completely different. But yeah, leaving there, I knew that we were going to be getting done with that first main segment. And then the next main segment was going to be heading to Michigan Bluff. And that's when I was going to get to see crew for the first time. And like I said, it was really, really nice. I will say on nutrition so far, like I talked about the good food, it was cool. So I was doing a little over a half a liter per hour early on in the race, 600 milligrams of salt and electrolytes in my bottle. And I was keeping 350 calories, that waffle, awesome sauce that I always do every half hour. And then just eating aid station food when I could. Usually a half a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I would just take 2 of those and I'd be off. When we got to Deadwood, we had to go from Deadwood to Michigan Bluff. And that was going to be 5.7 miles. We were going to climb 1,774 feet, but go down another 22 2200 feet. And all of the down was right away. And then you kind of stayed a little flat. And then all of that 1700 was right at the end. So this wasn't one where I could calculate like feet per mile. It was literally down 2200 feet, blow up those quads some more, a little flat and rolly, and then up 1700. And I was glad that, like I said, I was glad that I was glad the volunteers at Deadwood told me that, because I probably would have bombed that little bit downhill, not knowing that I was going to be going down for 2,200 feet. I did this segment, so a little less than a 10K in an hour and 42 minutes, 143 heart rate, 1639 pace. Very, very happy. I really, really love this section, especially like because I took that little bit downhill. I took it nice and easy. And just gliding through it, knowing that I was going to see the fam soon. And just, yeah, I knew that it was good. And this is kind of where I started to think about, like, should I change my shoes? Should I not? Because my feet were wet immediately. I knew I had all those shoes, but I also knew that there was going to be some water in between Michigan Bluff and Forest Hill. So as I came in, and you'll see this in the long form video when it comes out, I told them that, like, I'm going to wait and change my shoes, and I'm going to do it at Forest Hill. And I'm really, really glad that I did that. The first crew, yeah, everything was on schedule. It was wet, but it was cool. And like I said, I would have taken that rain, and the people I talked to that had done it both years, we would take that rain 100 years in a row over the heat that they had last year. Like, and it wasn't like tropical storm downpour rain. It was like just drizzle. Like, it wasn't windy, which was nice. Like, it wasn't like blasting us in the face. There were some sections where we got a little hail. I'm not gonna lie, we got hailed on. Needed a little helmet, but other than that, it was like the perfect rain. It was like just a little bit of like cool drizzle, just to like, I pretty much just had my button down on and arm sleeves. That's really all I wore the whole day. And I never was really that cold. From Michigan Bluff to Forest Hill, I had another 5.98 section. So you're going to see a lot of these. Like, the biggest sections were like 9 and 10, and there was really only 2 of them. So really we had like 6 miles between most aid stations. This one took me an hour and 36 minutes. So 90 minutes, 1607 pace, 137 beats per minute. We had to go up 1,100 feet, down 1,300. And at this time, we're like at 24 to 30 miles. Forest Hill is right at 30 miles. And that first one at Michigan Bluff was right at 24 miles. Most of this started on a nice little wide fire road. It was really, really runnable. And I know in some books that I've read, like, Jason Koop's like, make sure, like, coming out of Forest Hill, you don't blow up. So I kind of knew early, like, don't blow up on these fire roads, even though it really, really was. You just, especially coming out from seeing crew, vibes were high. And I know a lot of people that kind of went out a little bit hot heading towards Forest Hill. And I think that might have bit them in the butt. But coming in there, like, Jerry was like, the famous last words, like, don't worry, bud, rain's gone. And he was right for the most part. There was no rain, but little did I know I was going to get just pelted in the face with hail coming up. And there'll be videos, and I posted a little bit of a story, but yeah, there was just a really, really gnarly hailstorm. But Forest Hill was great. I mean, they had the car right there, so I got to sit. This is where I changed my shoes, and kind of where I made maybe like the first mistake of the day, if you will. So my challengers sometimes give me a little bit of pain on the outside of my big toe sometimes. And on one of my feet, it was starting to act up, and I was more like, my feet are wet. I know I have extra challengers. I had 3 other pairs of challengers. And I was like, maybe I'm just going to give my toe a little bit of relief. And I knew that the topos were going to give my toe a little bit more relief. Now, I had run long in them. I'd done a 20 miler in them. I'd done a 24 mile in them. I knew that they fit a little tighter in the like length of the shoe, kind of like where 11.5 is way too big, but at 11 might be a little bit too small, especially when your feet start to swell. But that was a risk I was willing to take because my feet were so cool, because I kept going through water and streams and things like that. So like, I kind of didn't think that they were that swollen yet. But also with the wide toe box, they're a little bit wide in the midfoot as well, which sometimes leads my foot to slide a little bit in them. And like I said, it was a risk I was willing to take. And I figured when I put them on, I would see how I felt. And when I put them on and got that big toe relief, I was like, I made the right choice. Well, I'll tell you this, and I don't even think I told the crew this. I got halfway down the road. I almost called them to come back. It just, I felt my toes hitting the front of the shoes. And I'm like, ugh, that's not going to be good. And I felt things sliding. And I was just like, you know what? I can't call them now, and I buckled down. I just tied them as tight as I could so they wouldn't slide. And that was, it led to a big deal. So coming out of Forest Hill, I had to go to Cal, and Cal is 8.3 miles away, 725 miles, meter. I got every unit of measurement except for the right one, 725 feet up, but 2,300 feet of down from 30 to 38 miles. And that down mangled my toes. I did the Grand Canyon in my Challengers. I did Grindstone in Challengers. I didn't have one bruised toenail in either of those two events. Outside of my toes hurt a little bit, but I didn't have one bruised toenail. And I just, with every step of that 2,300 feet down, I knew that I was going to lose every toenail. I knew that my toes were going to be minced meat. And I knew that when I was finally going to get to take them off, it was probably going to be about 50 miles into the race. I knew that I had these on for at least 20 miles because that's when I was going to see the crew again. And it didn't demoralize me. I was very, very good the whole day of putting things on a shelf. Like when the knee would act up a little bit, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, my knee's going to lock up, my day's over. Nope. I put it on a shelf. This is what we're living with. It's time to rebuild. And I will say I did a really good job of being like, my toes are mangled. I just made a critical error that I will never make again. But right now I got to put that on the shelf and I got to deal with it. The next thing that happened with that downhill is with my foot sliding to the front is I developed a gnarly blister on the arch of my foot that if you saw the video or the picture I posted, it became the size of my foot by the end of the race. We drained it once or twice during, which kept it from tearing open and making it excruciating. But from mile 50 on, the bottom of my foot was just raw every step. And I'm just cursing these damn topos the whole time. I'm like, this would have been such an easy mistake not to make. And I just made it. So that was like the story of Forest Hill down into Cal. It took me 2 hours, 4 minutes, 14:41 pace. So I was moving 132 beats per minute. But yeah, the topos, the topos and the hail were the story of this section, which made it really nice because the hail was just like, it was a distraction from me knowing that I'd probably just destroyed my feet. And I knew I was going to finish with destroyed feet. Destroyed feet is way better than blown quads or a locked up knee or a sore back or something like that. But I just kept thinking of Sally McRae and being like, oh my God, am I going to be the guy that was like, come on, Sally, stop talking about these damn blisters. And then here I am. But the blister thing only ended up being that one arch the whole race. But oh man, my toes, that's the reason I didn't run today. You guys saw I rode my bike. The only reason I didn't really go for a light jog today is my toes. My brothers brought me slides, like Hoka glides, and they're really, really awesome and comfortable. I've been living in those because my toes, I still can't get into shoes. And there's a good chance that at work tomorrow, I'm going to be the socks and slides guy. And I make fun of my students for wearing socks and slides. I might be the guy in socks and slides tomorrow at work. When I got to Cal, it was dark and we were going into the night there, and I knew that the next one at Drivers Flat. So we went from Cal to Drivers Flat, 38 miles to 47. I was going to be able to get my shoes off and I was going to be able to see my brothers. And I really focused on attacking the night. I said to myself, I want the night. I've dreaded it my whole life. It's ruined me in races before. I wanted a piece of the night and I was going to switch it up. I never run with music. I said, I'm going to put headphones on when it gets dark and I will wear headphones and I will put on angry music that would terrify elders for that entire time until I get to my brother at 3:00 in the morning. So I knew I had about 6 hours in the night by myself in the dark. I'm like, I made myself a 6-hour playlist of, like I said, angry, inappropriate, destructive music that made me want to just put my head through a wall. And it worked. I cruised that section. It was 9.3 miles, 17 up, 17 down. But once again, it was a U shape. So we went down 1700 and then we ran right along the American River. I couldn't see it because it was dark, but I could hear it. And man, if I ever go back to this race, I'm going to make sure that I go fast enough where I'm on that stretch. I just missed seeing it in the daylight. And like I was coming down during the daylight, and right when I got to the river is when it got dark and I turned my headlamp on. I'm sure that these were some of just the most incredible views. I got some good golden hour shots of like the sun going down right through the river that you'll see when I finally get to post them. But yeah, this was by far one of my best sections. And then even the climb up 1,700 feet was on a fire road. So I got to turn my headlamp on its lowest setting, which was nice because I didn't have to worry about kicking or tripping anything. Like I said, it was pretty much a road and it was just steep and it just went like this. I had my headlamp on the lowest setting and I just got into a groove and I just powered up that uphill. And yeah, it was really, my brothers were at the aid station, but they weren't waiting for me like they'd been in the past. I got there faster than expected. And like, I called my brother and he's like, "Hey, what's up?" I'm like, "Are you here?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Where?" He's like, "Holy shit, you're here?" Like, I kind of like, it was the one section where I kind of like ran out of my face and had a really, really good time and got up there quick. Took me 2 hours and 38 minutes to do that on 9.3 miles. So 1640 pace with that climbing. I'm very happy with that. Once again, low heart rate. I was cruising at a low heart rate, knowing that I was coming into the halfway point of the race. And this is where, if you saw the reel that I posted about murdering the night, I told you, I was just so fired up and I got to them and I'm like, I'm halfway through because I knew that when I got to them, I was halfway through the darkness I would have to face by myself. And then I just had to get through another 3 hours before I got to Danny. And I'm like, I'm going to just murder the night tonight. And I look up and there's a sheriff standing right there. And Danny's like, watch the murder talk. And I'm like, "Officer, you are going to get a report of a murder, but don't worry. It was just me killing the night." And I don't even know where it came from, but I really wanted to just destroy the night. At Driver's Flat, we put on some warm clothes. They did what a crew is supposed to do. I told them, and it was on paper, "Guys, I'm going to be disoriented. I'm going to start getting tired, and I'm going to tell you that I am not cold. Put me in layers anyway, and tell me to take them off." And sure enough, we were leaving and they were like, "Here's gloves, here's this." And I'm like, "No, I'm good." And my brother Danny and my brother Jerry and Ryan were like, "Put on a beanie, put on this. If you get hot, take them off, but don't get cold." And I took them off a quarter mile down the trail. I was sweating my nuts. I was like, no, but they did the right thing. And that's like another great thing with a crew is you have to have a meeting with them and you have to tell them, "I'm going to try and talk you out of shit. Like, no. Like, you are in charge of me, and you are a thinker for me. You are my system of checks and balances. If you're cold, I'm gonna be cold, even if I tell you I'm not." And I made that mistake at Grindstone where I talked Tara out of a couple of things. And Danny was like, "Dude, I'm sitting here layered up and I'm a little chilly, and you have a short sleeve shirt on. And the temperature's gonna drop 10 degrees. These are things you're not thinking about at 50 miles, like, oh, it's cold right now. It's nighttime. This is as cold as it's gonna get." No, Danny was like, "Dude, it's going to drop another 10 degrees." And that's why I was like, "Okay, you guys are right." We drained that blister on my foot. I put new shoes on. It was nice to get out of the topos, but I couldn't help but to think like, oh man, maybe the damage had already been done. I don't know. But now we work through Driver's Flat to Mammoth Bar. And I knew Mammoth Bar was going to be a really nice aid station, and I knew it had food. That was going to get me to mile 55. So it was 7.9 miles to that, down another 2,000 feet with another 1,000-foot climb. I feel like every section had like 1,000 feet of climbing and 2,000 feet of down. That's how I felt like the whole night. It was just a night grind. It was a little rolly, nothing crazy, and then dropped down at the end. I wrote that I stayed steady and music was king. Like I said, I freaking went for it. I left this section. I left Driver's Flat to Mammoth Bar like right at midnight. So it was and I knew that because, like I said, somebody told me it was Saturday, and at this aid station I had a 2:30 a.m. cut. So at that time when I left, I was 2.5 hours ahead of the cut, which made me feel really, really, really nice. I left Mammoth Bar Like I said, at midnight, headed out to Confluence. Confluence was going to get me at mile 59, so just under 60 miles. It was 3.7, 600 up, 700 down. It kind of went up a little bit and then a nice steady down. And this was the first time I thought I was lost the whole day. Only time I thought I was lost. And it wasn't because it wasn't marked. When you're on a trail and there's nowhere to turn, there's nowhere to deviate, they can spread those markers out. And they did such an amazing job of marking that when they did stretch them out, it made me paranoid. And it was also midnight and I was grinding uphill and I was just like, I haven't seen a ribbon in a while. And they had white reflective ribbon. So under my headlamp, they glue. Is that a word? They glued? No, they glowed. They shined brightly in my headlamp, and I just hadn't seen one. But that's why you have the GPX on your watch. I put the course on my watch. It was like on course. I walked for 1/10 of a mile. It continued to say on course, so I knew I was good. And then, sure enough, a little bit up the trail where there was a slight deviation, there was a ribbon right there. But that was the only time the whole night that I thought, am I off track? And I didn't know like where I was a lot. I didn't know how close I was to Auburn until it was like, oh, the next aid station coming up is No Hands. And I knew No Hands Bridge was just so close. And at this point, getting into Confluence at 60 miles, I was like, man, I just got to go 2 more miles and I get to Danny. And I got pacers, and I got crew, and we're gonna ship this thing. Like, it's gonna be locked up. I had a really, really big goal. Like, I told you about like these segments that I had, and it was get through Devil's Thumb, then get to First Crew, Forest Hill, and then get to the night, and then get to Danny. And that was it, and now I was finally at like, wow, I just need to get to Danny. And it was great. So I left Confluence. There was supposed to be a No Hands like water stop, but it was 0.8 miles. They also had that same aid, which was the last aid station of the race. But by the time when I got there, they were like, we don't have that set up. They let us know. They were like, hey, in 0.8 miles, there is not water. So get it here. And to get up to Cool One was going to be 3.8 miles, but it was 2,400 feet of up. 2,400 feet of up. And it was a crappy up. And when we and Jacob went for a walk, we came over No Hands, and there's a trail that just comes off No Hands and just goes up like this. And I remember seeing videos, and I'm like, Jacob, they did this trail right here last year. I'm like, they're going to send us up this thing. And he's like, I just can't figure out logistically like how that would work. I didn't realize I was going to go over No Hands twice. I was going to go over it once this way and once back. And as I'm coming over No Hands and I'm looking at my watch, like knowing how much distance is left, I'm like, I see the arrow up ahead point up that trail. I'm like, we are going to grind. And coming into 100K to see my brother going up that 2,400 feet over like a 5K span. Took me an hour and 49 minutes to go pretty much 5K. So a little under 2 hours to go 3.8 miles, 27:47 pace. So 30 minutes per mile at a 112 heart rate. So I still kept it nice and easy. I could have pushed, but like I said, I knew that the race was really going to start at 100K, and I PR'd my 100K, which is good news. If we were at Grindstone, I would have finished on time. So it was nice coming in a Cool One, getting Danny. I probably made my second mistake here. I was so excited to get out with Danny, and I was falling like a little bit behind my goal pace. And I said like, all right, let's put some food in there. And I started saying like, how far do we have to go? And Danny was like, we have to go 1.7 miles to Cofer Dam. And I'm like, 1.7 miles. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, let's just get some bottles. I'll take a bite of pizza and let's get out of here. What I forgot, and what I should have realized, and this was the second big mistake that I made in the race. And this one, the shoe one cost me an hour and a half. This mistake, I legitimately think it cost me 2 hours, which leaves me like a 3 hour on these, just 3 hours of rookie mistakes, inexperience cost me at least 3 hours. And here in the second one I made. So because of that small section, I was like, we can go. And me and Danny, we got out. I put on a new pair of Challengers my feet had started to swell. So I put my size up challengers on and I was ready to rock. And we were making a pretty good pace. We did 16:30s. So I came from 30 minutes. I pretty much cut my pace in half. That 1.7 miles took us 28 minutes, 116 heart rate. And as I said, came out excited, ready to run with Dan, ready to make some moves. We got to Kofor Dam, and I realized it was just electrolytes and water, that there was no food there. And I knew that Danny and I were about to go out on a loop, and the next aid station we'd see in 13 miles was this exact same aid station. And I didn't bring food for 14 miles. And on the road, 14 miles, 2 hours, no big deal. Like I can get through 2 hours. But at this pace, I knew that it was going to take us closer to 4 hours. So I had food for maybe 90 minutes or so, 2 hours. Danny had food, but he's not allowed to mule for me. And I'm a big rule follower. So like, unless my life was in danger, I wasn't going to take food from him. So I think more than like the hunger hurting me, I got a little bit demoralized. And that was really the first low spot in my whole race. Like how I came out of Cool One to how I felt 3 miles into Cool One, or 3 miles outside Cool One, it was tough. And then luckily that first out of Kofor Dam was kind of flat. And so we didn't really need to work too hard. It was 4.6 miles was the next section. That was going to get me from mile 65 to 69. Nice. Up 900 feet, down 900 feet. So still a climb, another U, down to the river, back up. That's the whole race, down to the river, back up. That took us an hour and 41 minutes, 22 minutes per mile pace. So that was really just power hiking, 107 beats per minute. And like I said, I wrote here, this was really my first low of the race. Knowing that I wasn't going to, because at this point, food was just so amazing. It was just so nice to like chew a chip. It was just so nice to like have an M&M and a slice of watermelon. It was just, and I think, like I said, not because I was hungry, but I think just not knowing that I didn't have the option, I was really, really mad at myself because I did put in the notes like, hey, I knew that it was just electrolytes and water. It wasn't a surprise to me. I dropped the ball there. From Kofor 2 to Cool, we had, so when we got back to that aid station, we did fill up and get water and stuff like that. And it wasn't, so we had 1.7 there the first time. It wasn't like we got back there and I had 1.7 back. That was another thing that demoralized me. Because at first, that's what I thought. I'm like, oh, we're going to do this loop and then I'll just have a 1.7 back to Cool. No, we did a loop, 7-mile loop, and then we had another 6 miles back to Cool, which it hurt. Touched my soul a little bit. I'm not going to lie. And at this point, the sun was getting ready to come up, which I will say, I thought sunrise was good. I just heard like, guys, get the sunrise is going to rejuvenate you. And your circadian rhythm will come back, this, that, and the other thing. It was nice to turn my headlamp off, but the sunrise didn't give me that jolt that like the Red Bulls were giving me. It did eventually, but like really I didn't catch the vibes of the sun being up until it was like fully up, like maybe like 8:39 in the morning. When it first came up, it was cool, like that the crickets were going and the birds started chirping, but like it didn't snap me out of the low that I really needed to be snapped out of. But we didn't talk about it. Danny did an incredible job of just being like, foot in front of the other, bud, foot in front of the other. Let's go. He did not let me go slow. He did the things I asked him to do. He spoke to me like I was a grown ass man. He told me what was at stake. He told me that I needed to move, and we did, and we got through that. And right when we were like, okay, we're getting ready to get back to Cool, there was, I can't even call this a river crossing. And anybody that's still here in the chat that was here for the race, it was like a bog. It was a swamp. It wasn't flowing, and it was long. It was probably 25, 30 yards of knee-deep, murky, muddy water at the 74-mile mark with thorn bushes on either side. You couldn't even there's no way that you were not going knee-deep. And I was just like, and I said in the reel that you hear the reel I just posted on Instagram, that was like my last pair of dry shoes. And I'm like, oh man, I'm going in the last 30 miles with wet shoes. Little did I know that I was so disoriented. I still had one pair of shoe left because coach was like, bring every shoe that you got. But yeah, it wasn't like the river where like you could step on rocks. You were kind of like shuffling your feet. You were kicking logs that were under it. It was cold, which was like, it felt kind of nice on the feet. But coming out of the darkness, it gave me a little bit of a chill. And yeah, my brother's here. He said, yeah, the Chinese woman warned us at the airport about it. But like Dan talked about it, and I just thought he said, he's like, we're going to have to get our feet wet. There's apparently another water crossing. And I'm thinking about all the other water crossings I had all day, like the flowing stream or a river where like, yeah, I'll get ankle deep, but this was just look at the reel. I took a video of it and you'll see it in the reel. And, but we got back to Cool 2. I was going to pick up my second pacer who was going to come in with me the whole time. And the sun was up at this point. Vibes were much better. I left with Ryan feeling very, very good about the situation. The first segment we had to go was 5.9. And another great thing about starting with Ryan, I was still pretty ahead of the cutoff. And I knew that there was a major cutoff at noon. And if I made it to that major cutoff before noon, it was borderline impossible that I couldn't finish. Like I had 8 hours to go, I think 12 miles if I got to that cutoff on time. So coming out of Cool to Brown Bear 1, 75 to 79 miles, I really just tried to like really focus on getting to alt. I really just wanted to get to that alt aid station. It was down another 1,000 feet. And little did I know that this was going to be the 1,000 feet I had to climb at mile 95. But yeah, we settled in with Ryan. It was awesome. We had good conversation. He's very good at he's like a technical runner. So we were doing a little bit of walk run. He's the one reminding me, take longer strides. He's the one, keep your chest up. He's the guy that's like, hey, stop using your poles for a minute and just really start to swing those arms and get things moving. And unlike Devil's Thumb, where like the people coming up were great to see, seeing people and knowing they were at 95 miles and they were done and we still had 20 miles to go. Like it was different in Devil's Thumb where I knew the people were like a mile ahead of me, 2 miles ahead of me. But when I saw these people coming down into Brown's Bar 1 and they were coming up and I knew they were 95 miles in and they were done, that was a little demoralizing. That was like, damn it, these guys are fit. But, they earned it and they looked good. And yeah, it was technical downhill. And it was like the first time when it was really technical that, like, as I mentioned, I was really thinking about that cutoff. I know I shouldn't be thinking about cutoffs. It wasn't even an issue. My brothers are yelling at me like, Brad, stop fucking cutoffs, man. Like, you're good. But I told Grindstone it was in here. It had me all banged up and I just couldn't get by it. But we left Brown Bar. We had to go up another 1,000 feet, par for the course, 79 miles to 85 miles to alt, 5.5 miles. I did this stretch in 2 hours and 19 minutes, 24:38, 106. This was the lowest part of the race. And this is the time now in hindsight where I know that without Ryan and without people being there, I wasn't going to make it. I was so effed up emotionally. I don't even know why. Well, I do know why now. This is where not having that food on the loop with Danny, that half marathon with Danny, started to catch up with me. Not eating for 4 hours the way I should have been eating. It was a little bit of a bonk because I was like, the legs feel good. I'm like, Ryan, I want to run. I just can't emotionally, I can't do it. Like I'm trying. And we talked about it and he's like, knees are good. I think we're back. Are we back? Can somebody tell me we're back? So I got you guys back. I think I lost you for a second. Somebody give me a thumbs up in the chat. I'll have to go back and. All right, we're back. Sorry about that, guys. Let me see what I was saying there. Like, I wanted to go. Oh yeah, we were going for like. So we were working, and he kind of diagnosed like, "Hey man, you're probably bonking," and he was like, the good news about that is when we get to alt, you know, we can recover some of that bonk. And I was like, you think? He's like, dude, he's like, your quads are tired but not locking up. You're not cramping. You haven't twisted an ankle. Andy Glaze says it. When you're feeling good, slow down. When you're feeling shitty, eat. He's like, you just need to eat. So he's like, give me a half-hour grind. I won't talk to you. Just put your fucking head down. You are a monster. Just go for it. And I never would have done that without him. I would have just spent that last hour analyzing everything else that was going wrong, not well, let's get to alt and get some food. I got to alt, like I had to make that cutoff, and I did. I made that cutoff. I got there like 11 o'clock, so 90 minutes. It was a relief knowing that I was going to finish. Ryan still wanted me in my 30-hour goal. And as I was eating, I said to him, Ryan, that last hour, all I thought about was not getting here in time. I was like, at least for this next aid station, I don't want you to tell me to run. Like, if I feel good, I'll go. I know that I need to move. I don't want to be out here for 35 hours. I was like, I just need you for one aid station. Just let me go when I feel good and let me walk as slow as I freaking want when I need to. And he was like, okay, dude, I totally get that. He's like, but to compromise, we are not leaving until you have 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and until you drink an entire can of Coke. And we sat there for a little bit, and there was carnage there, guys. There was circles of people talking each other out. I think a lot of people dropped at this aid station, even 90 minutes before the cut, because people were starting to do the math. And they're like, if I'm going 26 minutes per mile now, I'm probably going to drop to 30. And at 30, I won't make it. And Ryan was like, Brad, get away from, because I went over like, guys, no, we'll go together. We're all suffering. And Ryan was like, get away from those viruses. Like, tell them, let's go, but do not get in a conversation with them because we don't need that negativity. Once again, another time where he just saved me there. He just hooked me up, and I ate 2 peanut butter jelly sandwiches. I chugged a can of Coke, and I had probably one of the best Code Browns I've ever had my entire life. And I left that aid station, and I was like, I'm going for it. And I didn't tell him that, but I just started to move. I said, Ryan, I'm going to put my poles away. He's like, go for it. Put my poles away. I just started swinging my arms and just going. And then from 84 to 92, so coming out of alt, we had a 6.5 mile section. I did that in 2 hours and 14 minutes at a 20 minutes per mile. So that doesn't sound very fast, but when I was just barely holding on to 28, 29, I ended up running for the first 3 miles. I jogged at 16 minutes per mile for 3 miles, almost half of that. I was doing the math, and I'm like, at this pace, this 10K is going to take us 3 hours. And I'm like, I don't want that. And I also knew that if I worked my ass off on this little downhill, I'd be at mile 92, and I would have to get sniped from the bridge to not finish. So every step I took, I started to gain confidence back. And then the Coca-Cola hit me. And then the carbs from the sandwich hit me. And like the bonk went away. Now, my legs were still thrashed, but I was high on emotion again. I got out of that low. These things will pass. Ryan didn't talk to me the whole 40 minutes. The whole 3 miles, he didn't say a word to me. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm making Ryan so proud. I'm making Ryan so proud. He's thinking, let this kid cook. Let this kid. I was like doing it for him. I'm like, I really wanted to make Ryan proud. And when I finally walked, I was like, Ryan, I need a second. He goes, that was the most incredible thing I've ever seen you do. And it was just like, we just got together for a second. And I walked really slow after that 3. And he's like, you just knocked out half of that section. We are now at mile 90. You have 12 miles to go, and you have 7 hours to do it. Like, you have 7 hours to go 12 miles. Like, we could stop for lunch, man. We could take pictures. And we didn't want to do that because it was starting to get really hot. He was dunking my clothes every river, taking off my arm sleeves. He was dunking my clothes, taking my buffs off, putting them in the cold water. He was spraying water with me as I walked by because it was starting to get a little bit warm. I don't know how people did this last year in the heat. I don't know how people did it. We got back to Brown Bar. Vibes were high. Aid station once again. Lifeblood. People with ice buckets. The girls just being like, how are you? Oh, are you having a great day? It's sunny. You know, people being like, what do you want to eat? Do you like this? I had some broth. Have you ever had ramen? No. Try ramen. It's dope. I'll try that. Here's a Ziploc bag full of watermelons. Take this because he's like, take this food because there's no more food. You only have one more aid station. And I was like, oh, I only have one more aid station. She's like, instead of like a little baggie of Cheerios for the car ride, she gave me a little baggie of a sliced watermelon. And I left that aid station with a Coke and a little baggie of watermelon. And I knew that we had to go, where was this? This was Brown Bar 1. We had to go 10K. And it took me 2 hours and 30 minutes to go this last 10K. I had to go up another 1,000 feet, once again, up that technical trail that I saw people before. But I'm like, Ryan, I'm going to drink this Coke again. Because I was hoping for that same 3 mile, like, and I just enjoyed the watermelon in the sun. I felt my arms getting a little bit sunburnt. And I was like, I knew I was going to finish. I thought about my brothers and everyone back at start. I was like, whew. I went in like a 2-hour span from like as low as you could possibly be to it was insane. We took some souls going up to No Hands, which was, yeah, the Coke hit me again and I went for it. And at this point, the legs were so banged up that like going up was almost better. It was slow, but it felt better on the body. And I said to Ryan, like, dude, if I can do what I did in that last segment, I'm like, we might get in under 6 o'clock. And he's like, yeah, 2.5 hours. He's like, right now you could be 3 hours in front of the cutoff, which would mean I made up time when I thought I was dead. And speaking of being dead, I think at Brown Bear, when I went through the first time, they didn't scan my bib. And so my tracker like froze for like 2 hours. So my crew and everyone thought I was done. Like people that were hours behind me that they were tracking started like passing my little widget guy on the map. It's so I got text messages and messages the next morning. Brad, we thought you were dead at Brown Bear 1. Like we thought it was over. We thought you were destroyed. And like we didn't know. We don't have service. And then I guess it like popped back up when I got back there. But apparently that was pretty stressful. Sorry about that. We got back to No Hands and this was mile 98. I knew the race was 102 miles. We knew this. We knew, but No Hands right along the river, 1,000 feet, a brutal ending to this race. But I knew if I worked hard, I could just walk in. I didn't have to work. And I could have ran it and got in at 5 o'clock, or I could have walked it and got in at 5:30. And I just walked it in. One more Coke on the bridge. I probably had 10 cans of Coke. Big Coke guy. Big Coke guy. Big Coke guy. Ryan and I saw Hayden Hawks. If you don't know who he is a very, very fast ultra runner. And he was coming up the trail flying with like 1.5 miles to go halfway through. And I was like, got any tips for a first timer? He's like, yeah, go up that hill, make a right. And when you see the blue flags, run towards those. I was like, sounds like a good tip. Thanks. And he's like, first one. I was like, yeah, first one. He gave me a fist pound. And then he was gone. Flew up this 1,000 feet. And yeah, I told Ryan, I'm like, I'm going to take this all in. That was code for, I'm going to walk my ass in there. And that last 3.5 miles took me 90 minutes, 25.42 pace. People passed me. I didn't give a shit. I think 20 people passed me in that last 5K. Instead of finishing 120th, I finished 145th. 50%, a little under 50%, I think 46% of the race DNF'd. I'll take it. I finished 31 hours, 41 minutes, 21 seconds on the dot. 291 starters, 105 DNFs, so 186 official finishers. I like to think that DNFs, they started the race. So I was 145 out of 291. And like I said, I think inexperience cost me about 3 hours. I have no problem in that. My coach got me there physically. Awesome during the whole race. Could run today. Not sore. I have like a little bit of toe pain from my toenails being bruised. But other than that, I'm good. I'm up and down stairs. My students will see me tomorrow. Like, I'm good. So like, was coach worth it? Was another big question people kept asking me. 100%. Like, definitely 100%. The takeaways, music definitely helped during the night. I know people asked about that. Bring more clothing than you think, because I went from hail, pouring rain, 35-degree night, 85-degree sunny day, and just I was always able to just put on dry clothes, even if they were only going to stay dry for 20 minutes. And that made things really, really, really good. DJ, I'll show you the blister tomorrow if you want to see it, but we drained it. The thing with blisters, guys, is if they don't tear and rip and you drain them, like the skin, the dead skin that's lifted becomes like almost like a natural Band-Aid. So if it fills up and it pops and all that like flaps around and you have that bare skin out, that's brutal. But because we got on it early and it would fill with fluid and we would drain it, and then we put drainage holes in spots where I knew it would continue to drain as I ran, it was good. And then that's really the first thing we did. When we got home, showered, and then Danny was my cut man, got in, he drained them all. We got all the fluid out of them. So my blisters, they're good. Like the bottom of my foot's a little tender, but I rode the bike today and I have like a clip-in pedal that's right under my forefoot. Not a big deal. Pacers and crew are more than just pacers. They're your brains. They keep you thinking straight. And like I said, they just see things that you don't see. They know when the sun's coming up. They know when the sun's going down, like things you just don't think about. They know how cold it's going to get. They've seen people come in looking certain ways, and they want to make sure that if you look that way, that you go out looking better. So like, I know that people can do this solo. I just don't know why people would want to, I guess. Like, even I know Jacob, he said he loves a solo adventure, but like there was plenty of time to be alone. The hour or so that I stuck around with my crew, I was in aid stations for 1 hour of the race. People asked me that. 1 hour. I walked for 40 miles and I ran for 60. And that walk was either death march or power hiking. I walked I think it said I walked 16, I ran 16, something like that. Take care of feet issues early. And I knew which shoes gave me which issues. And I probably shouldn't have risked those topos that early in the race. Think about time, not distance. And for example, like a 10K for most of us, even on like a technical trail, you're going to get 10Ks done in 90 minutes, maybe an hour and 40 minutes if it's really technical. In this kind of race, at the end of the day, that it took me 2.5 hours to go 6 miles. So you can't bring food out for a 10K. You can't bring clothes out for a 10K. You can't eat nutrition for a 10K. You have to say, and there's another good thing about my crew. Like my brother Jerry wasn't saying you have 6 miles to go. Well, he would say you have 6 miles to go, which is at this pace probably going to take you 3 hours. And doing that 3-hour calculation on how much food I needed was so much easier than trying to do that math. So if you're going to write up like a pace chart for yourself, be realistic with what your paces are going to be. Like at the end of the day, they're probably, unless you're like an elite athlete, like I'm pretty fit. And on the overall in the day, I average like 19 minutes per mile. But the first half of the race was like 16, or the first 100K of the race was 16, 15 to 16. And then the last half of the race was probably closer to 22. Ryan, are you still in here? Ryan, what did we do for the marathon? I think for the last marathon, we averaged a little over 21 minutes per mile, I want to say, for that last marathon. So you have to be realistic with yourself. I knew that I was going to be going 3 miles per hour for that marathon. Ryan did a marathon with me for 10 hours. 10 hours. And I tried to talk him out of it. When we went out, I was like, dude, I knew what I just did with Danny. And I was like, I'm sorry, like, you're fit. Like, if you don't want to go out with me for 10 hours, I'll get it. And he was like, you can go fuck yourself. And then he led me off course. I hope he's still here. He led me off course by like 45 feet. But yeah, that was a big takeaway. Like, think about time, not paces. Your paces are going to crumble. At Grindstone, I gave Tara pace charts for like 13, 14, 15, and 16 minutes per mile. For this race, I gave them like 15:30, 16:30, 17:30, and 18:30. And I ended up being like that 18:30 to 19. Also, when you feel good, go. And I think early on when I felt good and I passed some people and I did some of those things that maybe made me go out a little too hard, maybe. But like, and especially at the end, when I felt good, I said, Ryan, just let me go. Let me run. You really you gotta feel good. And when you feel good, you gotta run. When you feel shitty, take a break. And you probably need to eat. If you're not cramping up and your knees aren't locked up, things like that, 99% of your crappy feelings are going to be food related. It's so true. Whether like you're having GI distress, which I didn't have the entire day, which anybody that knows me knows that I am the GI disaster station. Like, I can't go on a 5-mile run without needing to find a restroom. I am a disaster. I had one poop in the middle of the day and that was it. Right at alt. That was it. And that was a really, really, really nice. Eat more. I definitely got lazier at the end of the day. Thank God I had Ryan. I was like, Ryan, I don't want to eat this. He's like shoving a pancake, like a dry, thick, like just shoving pancakes in my mouth. I'm like, Ryan, it's so chewy. Oh, it's so dry. He's like, good, eat it. Here's water. Here's Coke. I'm just, you figure I got at mile 95, I got a pancake bacon sandwich. So dry. It's been cooked 30 minutes ago, but who cares? I'm capping that off with Coca-Cola and taking a bite of a watermelon. Like, that's how crazy it got at the end. But definitely eat more. Salt was great. Get a sweat test. I knew how much sweat I lose. I know how much milligrams of sodium I need per hour. And I think that was invaluable. I'm not a big, like, you cramp because you don't have salt imbalances. I more think that stomach issues come from salt imbalances on the high and the low end, like milligrams per liter. And like I said, no GI distress, no cramping, anything. So my 1,100 to 1,200 milligrams of sodium per liter for the entire day. That is one thing I definitely stayed on top of. Thanks to my brothers. My brothers and Ryan handed me bottles like full of electrolytes, and I couldn't not drink them. Like, that's what I had on me. And yeah, it was just an overall really, really good UTMB experience. I wrote here, days later, feeling amazing, really good fitness. I am currently thrashed in poison oak. I have it on my face. It's on my face. It's on my nose. But my legs, I had to go to my sister-in-law today and get like steroid ointment and prednisone. Like, I'm a disaster. It's on my forearm. It's everywhere. And we knew it. If you know once you know what poison oak looks like it was early on. Like, there's no way I could avoid it. I'm just gonna try and jump on here and make sure I didn't miss any of the questions that people asked me on Instagram. If you have any last minute questions, please leave them in here, and I'll definitely try and answer those quick. Let me see what I got here. Let's go to these questions. Not a question, but a topic. That swamp water at 75. Yeah, I talked about that. That was brutal. Can you talk about post-race? Hey guys, post-race urination. I'll say this, and this is Jacob was joking. He's like, you don't have to say anything. When it was raining, guys, I pissed myself. When it's pouring, these people that got off the trail, because you're peeing every 90 minutes. And over the course of a long day, especially for a guy that's terrified of cutoffs, I'm not like stopping, getting out of my flow state. Like from triathlon, I learned how to pee on the bike. I just learned how to do it. And yeah, it's gross. But when you're overhydrated and it's mostly just water anyway, like, sorry if that's real. I'm sure some people find it to be really, really great. I wouldn't do it if it was like sunny and dry. But when it's downpouring, guys, and I knew I was going through river crossings every 20 minutes, I just peed myself. I'll get the buckle in a second. There was definitely there. No. Check out the reel I just put. There was no way. You couldn't get in there. You couldn't get in there. Oh, how did the night go with the music? Yeah, like I said, game changer. It really, really was. And there was one song that my dad really loved, and I had that mixed in there, and I was waiting for it, and it came on like right as I got to the aid station. It was really, really good. What was your fueling strategy? Will you increase carbs next time? You can definitely go back. I won't get too into it, but the fueling strategy was good. I stayed on awesome sauce and waffles pretty much for 24 hours, maybe 26, and then crushed peanut butter and jellies. And then at the end, I was just taking in whatever I could get in. I don't think I necessarily need more carbs, but I definitely needed to eat more in the race. And like I said, with that mistake that I made of not eating on that last loop with Danny that much or not bringing enough food, yeah. How many pairs of shoes? How many pairs of socks did you use? I changed my sock. I went through 4 pairs of shoes. I changed into 4 pairs, and I changed socks each time. And then I changed my socks once by myself. So 5 pairs of socks, and then 5 pairs of socks, 4 pairs of shoes on the day. 3 shirts, 2 different base layers, couple hats, some gloves, pretty much all of the things. Did I talk about training? Yeah. Marcos, this entire podcast has been 22 weeks of my training. So you can go back in and check that out. Short story. Yeah, I trained a lot. Trained a lot. I was peaking at 80 something miles and 10,000 feet a couple weeks ago. Rim to rim in the Grand Canyon a couple weeks ago. And yeah, my training, I wouldn't change it. I wished early on that I thought I needed more miles. I didn't have a 100-mile week. I didn't need it. I didn't need a 100-mile week. Pushing to a 100-mile week would have got me hurt, and that would have screwed me even worse. So yeah, I'll go grab the buckle quick, and then if you have any other questions, we'll get out of here. This guy's making me run up the stairs. So there it is. Let's see if I can get it to zoom on this thing. Oh, you kind of need the light on it. Let me see. I got to touch it so it zooms in on it. There you go. So it says 10th anniversary, 100-mile finisher, Canyons UTMB. There it is. There it is. What are the questions? Yeah, training on Long Island for this was pretty gnarly. A lot of 100-foot climbs. Now I'm not sleeping with the buckle, but I definitely want a belt. I'll wear it. I'll be a guy that wears the buckle. But yeah, no, I've had it pretty close to me. It definitely went on my carry-on. Todd, no swelling in the legs. My feet were pretty swollen. But compression socks in the plane, compression socks for a couple of days. I soaked them in ice. Just the normal recovery stuff that I do. Nothing out of the ordinary. No, pretty good. Yeah, man. So that's the wrap on this race. And we'll talk about real quick what season 2 of this is going to be, because I'm going to ride the bike. Oh, Derek, I emailed that guy. Don't you worry. I asked him if I was fit enough yet. Oh yeah, you told me that. Yep, that definitely helped when Danny told me that the Rangers had advanced. I was like, yeah. He told me like 3 a.m. He's like, yeah, they played today. I'm like, back-to-back games. He's like, they played yesterday, bud. You've been doing this for a long time. I'm gonna take a couple weeks off of like hard running, I think, but I'm definitely gonna run by the end of the week. Probably gonna ride the bike for the next couple of days. Maybe get a run in on Sunday, just like do a systems check if the toenails are feeling good. And next, I'm doing a couple of shorter races for fun. Here, I'm going to do a triathlon this summer, so we're going to talk about training for that. And then I'm pacing Jigger Johnson in the White Mountains with Ryan, who's been in here. I'm going to pace him in that ridiculous event. I'll be going out to the Crazy Mountain Ultras in Montana to pace and crew out there. I think I'm going to be going out to Bigfoot 200 to pace and crew Jacob. So we'll be doing that in August. And my next big A race is going to be the Javelina 100. And I'm saying it now. This is going to be the theme of the second season of this podcast. I want sub 24. That's the Javelina 100 goal. You get a different buckle if you break 24. I want to break 24 there. I'll talk about if I'm going to keep coach on or not for that effort. I do have a 50 miler on the block right now as a training run on September 28th. So if you want to do a 50 miler with me, just DM me or something and I'll get you that race that we're going to do. It's going to be a local race up here in New York. So that's going to be the training race and yeah, some other awesome adventures planned. So the podcast will continue. Brad Trains will continue. And I appreciate there's been a ton of people in here. If you can give the video a thumbs up, that would be really, really awesome before you get out of here. I'm scratching the shit out of my poison oak right now. Actually, I'm not scratching it. I'm rubbing it. But yeah. And doing this every single week and talking with you guys. And there's a lot of people in here that are here every single week. And the people that DM me when I'm lazy on Monday and they're like, where are you? Thank you. Thank you very much for holding me accountable. I thought about all of you guys out there. I thought about this podcast. I thought about this moment in my low times. And Ryan bought an apple pie on Thursday. And he said, well, this is either going to be humble pie or celebration pie. We're going to find out. And I'm glad it's celebration pie. I needed a good one. And I needed to put the exclamation point on it. And I needed it to be dope. I owed it to the family that came out. I owed it to my friends. I owed it to my sobriety. I owed it to everything. So that's a wrap on Canyons. 10 out of 10. I probably wouldn't do it again. I'm not going to be I don't want to really be a repeater, but I did not recommend Grindstone to anybody really, but I recommend this one. The course, incredible, especially for a Long Islander like me. Course was just amazing. Auburn lives up to the hype of Endurance USA. If they keep the same course, I beg you, do a lot of eccentric movements. Don't worry about the 1,800 feet. Like train for this race for the 22,000 feet of down. That's the 22,000 feet of down should worry you more than the 18,000 feet of up. If you train for the 22,000 feet of down, the 18,000 feet of up will be a non-issue. But if you train for the 18,000 feet of up, the 22,000 down will wreck you. It will wreck you. You cannot just be a treadmill runner for this race. And my coach told me, thank God he told me to drive and do eccentric movements. If I would have just I could have done 15,000 feet a week for the last 6 months on the treadmill. I wouldn't have finished. The downhill would have ended my race. So keep that in mind if this is a race you want to do. Yeah, my wife, she smoked the 50K. I think watch time was 6:58. I think 7:02 is her official time, 14th in her age group. Yeah, she had a really, really good race as well. I didn't beat her in. I wanted to, but she got to be there when I finished. Isn't running downward supposedly easier than going up? It depends, but no. Eccentric load and you think about if you did like stand on one foot and then squat down, but just 6 inches, and then do that. This race, I did this. I took 210,000 steps in this race. So if you stood there on one foot and you did like a little squat, 6 inches, and stood up, okay? Think about doing that 110,000 times on each leg, okay? That will hurt. Now, consider yourself doing that down and the impact of gravity hitting you every single step 200,000 times. Like your quads have to brace you every single step. And you do anything, like I have chafe on my chest up here somewhere. See, like all this? Oh, you can't see this. I didn't feel that, but like you think about my vest sitting here, and even just a light rub, anything 210,000 times is going to leave a mark. And yeah, like 210,000 little mini squats, a nice steady like 1% downhill. Yeah, but you have to think, like when I say downhill, I'm not talking down like cruising down Stillwell, like a D2, you know, Stillwell. Think about double the steepness of Stillwell down. And not only that, but rocks and technical trail. So like you're not like, it's not 1 foot. You can't shuffle down. You have to step down off of things. Yeah. Yeah. I thought about the rolling down. I did fall. Oh my gosh. But yeah, the roll, it wouldn't have worked out. But I fell at mile 40, and I've stumbled to the ground before. I've never been sniped. Like somebody grabbed my foot while I was running, and it was one of those where I was on the ground and I didn't know what happened. If you have a Garmin, if you get in a car accident, it says like emergency alert detected. Like, do you need help? Hold any key for 30 seconds if you don't need help. That happened. Like, I'm on the ground and like banged his shoulder, and I was like, ah. I had to put it on a shelf. I'm like, did anybody see that? Did anybody get that on video? And I like stood up, and my watch was like, alarm, beep, beep, injury detected, accident detection, hold any key. And I'm like, that's the last thing I need. But I got my first real fall out of the way. I had to like, there was freaking spring energies just ejected out of my vest. I'm like scrambling to pick up spring energy gels, and like my GoPro was like up on a tree. I don't know what. And I look back and I didn't see anything. Like, I don't even, thank God it wasn't on like a really rocky part. This was on like a more runnable part. So I got like a little rock, but more dirt, if I'm being honest. There were some other spots I could have fallen and it would have been a lot harder, but like I could have just, I was like, flow state, flow, boom. And I'm on the ground, like on my, like it twisted me. Like, yeah, I got that out of the way. But that's it. There will be a long form video probably by the end of the week. I'll get it out, and it's good. It'll be good. If you liked rim to rim to rim, I'm gonna get, like, Grindstone was a good video. I think rim to rim was a better video. This one's gonna be the best video I've made so far. And the hard part is I can't edit it right now because, as you could tell, I'm very emotional. What's the best thing about Ultra? Every human emotion packed into a 24-hour period. The highest of highs, the lowest of lows, the happy, the sad, the hungry, the upset stomachs, the nauseous, like everything you could possibly feel packed into one day. So I can't edit it right now because I just get emotional. Like, people are still texting me and I can't stop crying, you know. But that's it, guys. I appreciate you. And next week we'll talk about how recovery's going, and I'll lay out a plan for what we're going to do for Javelina. And yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for the constant support. I literally couldn't have done it without you. I really couldn't have. And I look forward to, I know there's some people in here that are going to race, run free and strong. I know you have a redemption tour coming out. So I look forward to seeing all you guys dominate as well. And as Todd says, world domination, right? And let's keep her lit. All right, guys, take it easy.